Hi everybody. All right, so welcome to class today. Basically, what I'm looking to do is now start to do more lessons related to the career planning and career development aspect of this course. Now, as we've talked about before, there are two components in this course. We have what's called the emerging trends, and we have the career development. And the emerging trends is slightly more emphasis. And basically that is the idea that we want to learn new skills, we want to be constantly learning, keeping up with the latest trends in technology, and improving our skills. And that makes perfect sense. You guys are going to be software developers when you graduate, so you need to have that skill. It's extremely important. Basically, any job you interview for, if you do well in those interviews, good chance there will be a software development coding test of some kind. And programming is a demonstratable skill. So it's something that you either have or you don't. And the employer is going to want to see you write some code. They're going to want to see you problem solve. And really the number one takeaway I can give you guys on that is just program every day, basically. Someone who programs every day has some side projects that they're constantly working on, constantly learning about. They're going to basically accelerate their development and their learning compared with someone that just does the schoolwork. Okay, and those are kind of the two approaches you might have, and both can work. But the advantage, you guys have at least another year and a bit before you graduate. If you begin, and hopefully you're already doing this, but if you begin now, programming every day, just a little bit of software development, a little bit of your day goes to that. Over the course of that year plus, your skills are really going to take off. So that's kind of the number one push that I have. But the other part though is the career development. And that comes down to the fact that you could be like a really great software developer. But if you don't put the right effort into the career development part, then it's going to be hard to get yourself into that position where you can get interviewed for a job. So that's kind of what we're going to look at today. Now I've posted some new content. I'm on the D2L shell right here. So I'm going to go into content and May 22nd, and we've got personal branding. So that's just what I called the lecture. But basically what the topics we're going to look at is how to sort of create your personal brand and what the emphasis there is. And then a big part of your personal brand is going to be your LinkedIn profile. And as well, another part of your personal brand is going to be networking. So the few tips I have for networking, one of them is to join any relevant software development groups. And we happen to have one in the province called NDEV. And it's the NL Software Developer Group. And they put on a series of events where basically people come together. There will be a few speakers, and then you can pretty much chat after the event. And I've been to a few of them, and I find them really, really enjoyable. And certainly for you guys, it's extremely important to join a group like this, because a lot of the people that are involved in it also work in the local industry. So having the chance to network with them is going to be really, really valuable in terms of helping you, start your career. Okay, so I've got a few links here. I just want to go through basically these links. I've got a few points written down that I'll talk to you about. And of course, I recommend that you guys go through and read about this on your own after my lecture, or follow along as I'm doing this. Now, another thing I will point out, part of this course, it's required that you create a LinkedIn profile. So I want to see a LinkedIn profile set up and polished, everything filled out, and I want this done by next Friday, okay? So this isn't a ton of work, but there is some effort that goes into creating the LinkedIn profile. There's a lot of different sections that you have to fill out. And for your LinkedIn profile, I'm gonna have you add me to your network, add another instructor, add a couple of classmates, follow someone that's considered an expert in your field, and follow the College of the North Atlantic group as well. These are basically suggestions. So I mean, if you decided, oh, I don't want to add an instructor, it's not a huge deal. But I do necessarily I need to see that you have the profile filled out and that you have made some connections on LinkedIn. Okay. All right. So let's look at this first link here. Okay, building a personal brand that can boost your career. So this all comes down to really self-promotion. And myself, a lot of people, we're not really naturals at this. We don't like to kind of step up and brag and show off. So doing some of these activities are a little bit unintuitive for some people, as I said, myself included. But this is really important. I mean, if you have certain skills that you need an employer to know about, you have to be able to boost your brand and show off what you're capable of. So basically, a personal brand is basically going to be your story, your skills, what you're good at, what your goals are, where you see yourself in the future. And this is important information that you need to basically put out to the world, to an employer, so that they can then see, okay, this person has this motivation, they love doing these things, this is where they really excel, and then that'll basically mean that they'll be interested in getting in touch with you, and maybe they have a position at their company that would fit your personal brand. So figuring out who you are is a big part of the personal brand. And some questions that the way you kind of go about figuring out who you are is you have to answer some important questions. So for example, what do you love about software development? I mean, that's a very important question. And if your answer is, right? You need to think about this before you get yourself into an interview situation. Describe some software projects you have worked on. Okay, very important, right? What are your strengths as a software developer? Okay, so these are the types of questions that are going to come up when you're speaking to someone about a job or you're being interviewed. And some other questions that you need to look at are listed here. So, in which areas of work do I excel? What motivates me? What characteristics have others complimented me on? Which projects have others had to help me with repeatedly? Which roles seem to drain my energy? Which projects can I spend hours on without feeling overwhelmed or tired? So basically trying to get a good idea of what your strengths are, what your passions are, that's going to help you as you sort of start to do things like create your LinkedIn profile, create a portfolio, create a resume. You have to know who you are. And answering these questions can go a long way for that. And you can also ask your family and friends how they see you. What do they see your strengths being? What do they see, some things that you're passionate about? And see if that matches up with what you think. Okay. All right, so next up is determining what you want to be known for. So basically, what's described here is you want to assess what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and how those relate to your the chosen career you want to pursue. And basically, the strengths are things you want to highlight, and then the weaknesses, those are things that you're going to want to work on or gain new skill with. So for example, if I was thinking about some of my skills, I would definitely think that problem solving is a real strength of mine. I really enjoy software development when I have a real challenging problem in front of me. Maybe some other developers on my team haven't been able to successfully fix this issue. And then I can come in and focus and go through a problem solving process and come up with a solution. I think that's a real strength. But I think perhaps a weakness that I have as well is that I don't probably spend enough time keeping up on some of the latest technologies and latest trends. I pretty much rely on my experience working on projects to sort of wait till I experience a new technology there before I really go out and research it. I don't kind of like to go out on my own and find new technologies before I actually encounter them. So that's probably something that I should be looking at, maybe doing some online courses of new technologies that maybe I haven't encountered yet, but I anticipate I'll need to learn down the road. Okay, define your audience. So for most of us, the audience will be recruiters in general. So someone who is working in human resources, who is a recruiter for a company. That's definitely going to be your guys' audience. And specifically, it could be a particular company. And that's something that you should be thinking about. Making a short list of what companies do you want to work for. I'm assuming that most of you want to work here in Newfoundland in the local tech industry. And there's a lot of great companies here. So making a list of which companies you would be most interested in is really important. And then that way you can tailor your online portfolio and your personal brand towards those companies. So the big takeaway here is that LinkedIn. This is a huge part of your brand. And this is a great way for you to get in contact with these companies and these recruiters. They're going to be able to see your profile on LinkedIn, and they would then potentially, you can contact them or they can contact you, and they'll be looking for candidates using LinkedIn in many cases. Okay. All right, so number 4, research your desired industry, follow the experts. So in this case, basically, you're going to want to think about some people in your field, that maybe some people that are fairly famous or leaders at the companies you want to work for. You're going to want to see what are they doing? What type of portfolios do they have? What type of GitHub accounts do they have? And on LinkedIn, you have the ability to follow someone. So let's just do a quick example. I have my LinkedIn profile here, and so I can easily go and search for different people that I might want to follow. Okay, so if I want to just search for someone, I can go into the LinkedIn search here, and you can see I did a few searches already. So for example, someone who's really famous in the video game industry is a person by the name of John Romero. So I can basically look at John Romero's profile. I can see pretty much what they've published, what their experience is, and I can use that information. It's very valuable to see what someone who's really successful is and how they've set up their LinkedIn profile as well. You can see that they've pretty much filled out they have a background image, they have an image here, they've got all of these text sections filled out, they've got their experience listed and their education as well, and then they have a bunch of skills and endorsements, and under recommendations, they've received a bunch and they've given a bunch of recommendations. They also have a bunch of accomplishments and skills, so you can see here for programming languages, John Romero has all kinds of experience with a lot of different languages. And under projects, John Romero's worked on all kinds of world-class projects. So it's a very impressive profile, and you can kind of use that to benchmark how you can set your profile up. Now, John Romero, as you can maybe see, this is one of the developers on the game Doom. And this is one of the most famous people in the video game industry. When Doom came out, it was like a revolutionary game. The game design and basically how the levels were constructed pretty much was something that people had never seen before. It was kind of like when the movie Star Wars first came out, and it just was a huge step forward in technology and in the special effects and everything. And so this was one of the developers. He was a designer and programmer on these games. Now, another example, I had also looked at Bill Gates. So you can go through and see Bill Gates' profile here and all of the experience and stuff. And in this case, you can opt to follow Bill Gates. And the idea there that you find some people who are leaders in the technology industry, and then you go ahead and you follow them. So I'll go ahead and do that. So now I'm following Bill Gates. So now when I go to my information stream, when Bill Gates does a post, it'll show up and I'll see what content and what comments Bill Gates is discussing, because I'm now following Bill Gates. Okay, so LinkedIn can be a great way to look at people in your industry, see what they're doing, right? See what's on their GitHub, see what projects they're working on, see what additional education or additional courses that they are doing as well. So that's definitely something that you guys can take advantage of. All right, next up, ask for informational interviews. So this really comes down to networking, and the idea here is that if you know someone or you can get in touch with someone who's at, say, a company that you're really interested in working with, you can ask them, hey, it'd be great if I could just get in touch with you. If I just have a few questions I'd like to ask about your job and your career, because I'm really interested in some of the things that you're doing. And people are going to be really happy to accommodate this. So basically, if you can set up an informational interview, and it can be really informal, it doesn't have to be something where you schedule them in, but you can run off a few questions maybe you're curious about. So for example, like, what was the interview process like at your studio? What are some skills that you recommend a prospective employee would want to learn to get a job at that company? A bunch of them are listed here. Are there any professional or trade associations I should join? Now, I've recommended that you guys join NLDev, but there's probably a bunch of other ones that you would want to join as well that I'm just not aware of. So that would be a great one. The person might say, yeah, we have this computer science organization. A lot of our employees are members of that. You probably want to take a look at that then. Okay, now another thing about the informational interviews is we have at the college a lot of recent graduates in the past few years that are now successfully employed at several of these companies. So that's something that the teachers could put you in touch with a few of these students, and then you could ask them some questions, and that would be a good networking opportunity. All right, next up, number 6 is creating an elevator pitch. So this almost comes back to the first part here when we talked about figuring out who you are. Being able to answer those important questions like, what do you love most about software development? What are your biggest strengths? So basically the elevator pitch takes these important questions and it sort of rephrases them in about a 30 to 60 second pitch that you would give to a prospective employer about yourself, and highlight your strengths and your passions. And the idea there is if you met and you were networking or you went for a job interview, often you're going to be asked to sort of, okay, tell us a little bit about yourself, Eric. We'd like to get to know you and what your interests are in this job. And this is your opportunity to do your elevator pitch. And it's basically something that you can practice and polish. And you'll get the chance when you guys are going and in the process of interviewing and applying for jobs, you'll have the chance to use your elevator pitch. Now, I haven't practiced mine, but mine would basically go something like this, that I'm a teacher, I really love technology, and the thing that I enjoy most about teaching is leading the students through the problem-solving process, showing them how to solve problems using software, and really demonstrating to them how to program every day in a basically concerted manner that will then allow them to develop those skills and be successful. And there's nothing more that I enjoy than seeing the students progress throughout the program at the college. Then they graduate and they get these great jobs, and it's just a great feeling for me. And I think that's the best thing about my job. So, okay, so that there's my elevator pitch. That's just something I just went with right now. But those are my true feelings. So it's very easy for me to come up with that. Being able to say what you enjoy most about your job, the best parts of your job, and then highlight it using an example. Something successful I did or something I worked on that I really loved. That's your elevator pitch, and it's 30 to 60 seconds. So that's something that you guys should be practicing. You know, what if you were in that situation where you're on the spot? Describe yourself. Tell us about yourself. What are your, what's going to make you a great fit for our company? And that then, you just go with your elevator pitch. Okay. So let's move on. Next up is embrace networking. So for embrace networking, basically the idea there is that that's how you get your job. I mean, if there's a job posting that's posted somewhere and you just go and fill that out, that's fine. But a better approach, for example, if I was looking for a job at a specific company, I would see the job posting, but then I would say to myself, who do I know that works at this company, at this studio? And I would get in touch with anyone that I know and let them know, hey, I'm interested in applying here for this job. This is the posting. And I would use those contacts, those networking contacts, because that's going to help get my resume and my application recognized at that studio. So in other words, keeping a list of contacts that you have as you go through your career and through your education is going to be very important. And this article here mentions that 85% of all jobs are filled through networking. So we talk about the NDEV. So let's just go to this. So this is the NL software developers, and there's 623 members in this group. And these are all people that work in the local industry. So going to these events, usually the format will be, there'll be, a talk or a session where a few speakers are going through a topic. And then after that's done, people will just kind of hang out and network and chat. And this is a really good opportunity to sort of get your name out there and meet people in the local industry. So that's an example there of certainly of networking. Another area for networking though is the college. So there's a lot of teachers, instructors at the college who have really strong contacts in the local industry. So talking to those teachers and striking up conversations about what the different jobs are, where what they would recommend for you to do in terms of preparing for some of the careers, I think is a great idea. And then also thinking about, okay, who are you going to use as your references? Because that's a big part of networking as well. And for you guys, you're probably going to want to use at least one, maybe two instructors as a reference. So the one thing you want to do with that is you probably want to talk to those instructors sooner rather than later to make sure that they're happy and comfortable giving you a reference. And if they're not, what are some things you need to do so that they will be happy to give a reference? And for me, one of the big things for giving references is I want to give references to students who show up for class and attend class all the time and have a really strong effort. So that's kind of my number one thing. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. And the other instructors at the college are probably quite similar. So that's a big part of networking as well. And then additionally, networking with your fellow classmates. Remember, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, your classmates are going to be leaders in the software industry. So keeping a good relationship with them, keeping in touch with them is also really important as you go forward. Okay, asking for recommendations. So pretty much this comes into making sure you have references when you go to apply for a job. It's very important that the references know that you're using them. The worst thing you could do is use a reference without telling them, and then they're going to be caught off guard. And maybe you asked for them to be a reference a year ago, but a year's time has gone by, and now you're continuing to use them for another job application. And really what you need to do in that case is just send them a message saying, hey, I'm applying for this job and I'm looking to use you as a reference. Just wanted to keep you in the loop, okay? So you're not caught off guard. And that's a really good tip as well. Okay, recommendations. So specifically LinkedIn has a section for recommendations. So when I go back to, for example, John Romero, John Romero has received 51 recommendations, okay? And he's given 50 recommendations. So that's an example there. Now with LinkedIn, you have the ability, when you add a contact, to go and request a recommendation from that contact. And then you'll also be receiving requests for recommendations. And this is a great way to network and to show that you have experience working on certain projects. I mean, imagine the weight if you had, for example, someone like a John Romero giving you a recommendation on your LinkedIn profile. How cool that would be, right? And there's 50 people that have gotten that, and that's invaluable to show that you have really strong professional experience. Okay, so LinkedIn has the ability to do that. Now, in terms of recommendations, though, former managers, or if you're at a current job, asking your manager for a recommendation is a really good idea. And also, I think for you guys, your instructors is a good place to have at least one, probably two. I would say you probably want to have 2 instructors that you're planning to use as a recommendation when you graduate. Once you have a few years of experience in the industry, you probably won't need to use those instructors as often, but it's still good to have them on your list of potential references. All right. So next up, 9 is growing your online presence. And that's going to be a lot of the work that we're going to do in this course. As you know, we're going to now be setting up a LinkedIn profile. We also have our GitHub. So these 2 things go hand in hand. The GitHub is going to be, we're going to show this off on our LinkedIn profile. As well, our LinkedIn profile is going to highlight our passion, our work experience, our education experience, and our goals in our career to really sort of try to put our name out there. And we're also, LinkedIn, we can also use it to grow our network. So we can add contacts on LinkedIn. And when we look at this part of the assignment here for LinkedIn, we're going to add some instructors, you're going to add some classmates, you're going to follow a group or a person that's considered an expert, and you're going to follow the College of the North Atlantic. And this is just a start, right? Once you have your profile up and running, you're going to want to start expanding your network. So things like getting in touch with recent graduate students at the college and connecting with them is a great opportunity as well. If you go to the NL Dev Software group and you introduce yourself to some people there, then you can find them on LinkedIn and add them to your LinkedIn profile. And these will be people that work in the industry. So there's some really great opportunities for this. Okay. So we have our LinkedIn, and basically there's a few tips here. So definitely using a professional photo for your LinkedIn is a key tip. Now, if we look at my LinkedIn here, okay. So my LinkedIn, I mean, I haven't been that active on it. There's some stuff that a lot of things that I'm not doing properly on my LinkedIn. So we're almost going to use mine more as an example of what not to do in some cases. And we can also show what are some things that I should be doing. Now that photo there it's okay. That photo is actually scaled properly. So your face should take up, I think, about 60% of the photo. But that is not a professional quality photo, but it's actually not that bad. Now, on the other hand, this background photo here, that is just a stock image that comes with LinkedIn. So I should have a proper background that I would create. And most likely in my case, I would want to have a picture of me probably in front of the class, or maybe in front of my whiteboard, doing some work, or maybe helping a student with a project, something like that. That should be my background image. For you guys, it might be maybe a project you've worked on. Maybe it would be some code, a snippet of code that you've written, something that kind of highlights your credentials as a software developer. Okay. All right. So focusing on key industry skills. Basically, you need to highlight your skills with your LinkedIn profile. Now, in my case, if I come down here, I have a bunch of skills. So I have game design, gameplay, and video games. So this is where I'm not doing so well here. I mean, I do have the issue where I'm sort of a teacher and I do the video game development, but really this LinkedIn profile should be related to my teaching skills, not my video game skills. So this is where I would want to go and edit my skills. And you can see here I have all kinds of different skills listed. These are all video game skills though. So I would definitely want to go and now add in some skills related to, you know, the classroom. So curriculum development, basically hands-on learning in the classroom, use of technology in the classroom. These are all things that I would want to try to highlight as skills with my LinkedIn. Now, keep in mind, I would also want to go and look at other teachers and what they have listed and how they've set their profiles up. And I'd probably get some good ideas in terms of how I should set mine up. Okay. Now, another thing that's important here is completing your profile. So that's not leaving any sections blank. When I look at my profile, for example, I have my About section is pretty weak. That's not a very full, well-developed section. Also, the Featured section, I haven't featured any of my work. So that's where I would want to probably take some projects I've done, maybe the Connect 4 project, and I would basically outline, this is a project I did with my students, and here's the GitHub for it, and I could display it here as well. Okay. And there's other sections that I could then add as well to my profile. Okay. So some other areas that you could potentially look at adding to create your personal brand. One of them might be Twitter. It's a great way to basically get information about technology and to communicate ideas and also to network with other people. So potentially that's one that you would want. Now, obviously GitHub is huge. So this personal branding isn't specific enough to software developers, but for a software developer, GitHub is right up there with LinkedIn in my opinion. So that's definitely one that we're going to focus on. And that kind of comes into play with personal website or portfolio. We can really treat GitHub as our personal portfolio that shows off a lot of our work. Okay. And then just continuing on, that remembering your personal brand isn't just online. So the whole idea there is that you want to put out a positive image, in your day-to-day activities, in your schoolwork, when you're working with your classmates. You want to be a positive person because those are the people that are going to generally be most successful. Because we're all human, and people that we like we're going to give more opportunities for. And it's not something where we're biased, but that's just human nature, that someone you like and you work well with, you're going to want to continue to work with that person. And so networking, is a lot easier to do when you have a positive demeanor and you put out a positive image of yourself every day. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to go through today, is just to sort of introduce these ideas. And of course, I've got my LinkedIn profile here. And the other part that I have posted, I'm not going to get into this today, but that'll probably save this for Monday, is the tips for creating the LinkedIn profile. So I would like you guys to go through and look at some of these tips. And I've gone through each of these and read them over. It doesn't take very long. And basically these just say for this section, what you're looking to accomplish with your LinkedIn profile. And just really quickly, when we look at our LinkedIn profile, there's several sections. So we have our About section, we have a place we can feature our work, we have our experience, okay? And we also have our education, then we have our skills right here. And now another thing that's important with LinkedIn is you can take a skill quiz. So I can go to take a skill quiz, and based off of the skills I've listed, for example, I could take a Java quiz. So I could study for this. I could then go and successfully complete the quiz. And that would then show up on my LinkedIn profile, basically demonstrating that yes, indeed, I do have that skill. And then of course, recommendations. Now, this is another area where I have not received any recommendations. I've given one recommendation. So I could go and ask for recommendations. I would basically go and this would pop up a dialogue where I could then select people from my network, and people that I've previously worked with, and I could then ask them to get a recommendation on LinkedIn. And the other one is I can ask for an endorsement. So game design, 5 people have endorsed me for that skill. Gameplay, 4 people have, and 7 for video games. Now, once again, I mean, these are not the kind of skills I want to be showing off as a teacher. I would be better off editing this and at least putting in C++ and Java and Lua and game engines maybe as technology skills that I can bring into the classroom and try to highlight that. Okay. All right, so essentially my LinkedIn profile is really a work in progress, and if you guys have a LinkedIn profile, it's probably in a similar condition, but going through this article here, 20 steps to make a better LinkedIn profile, is something that you can get started with today. And of course, next Friday, you're going to be submitting the links to your LinkedIn profile so I can take a look and verify that you have done this work. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap things up. Now, the other thing that I've been talking to you guys about is resumes. Now, I have hired a professional certified resume specialist, okay? And they are going to be doing a video with me next week. And I'm really excited about this. Like, I am really excited, okay? This is gonna be awesome because, you know, I can teach you guys how to program. I'm an expert in software development. You know, if I show you guys how to do resumes, I mean, I'll do my best and everything, but there are people out there that are much better. So I really feel like we should get someone in that's a professional. And so this person is going to do a video session with us. They're going to take my current resume and they're going to show how they can take that and take it to the next level, okay? Now, I am planning to shoot this video Wednesday evening. So that means I might be able to post that video for Friday, hopefully. If not, it'll be the Monday after, okay? And once I post that video, I'm going to then have you guys fix up your resumes as part of this course, okay? Part of the career development. And the key thing, just remember, as we're going through this course, there's 2 parts, right? And they both come together. You need both of them. If you're a great software developer, but you don't do any effort on your personal branding and your resumes and your career development, it's not going to work, right? Just like if you do all your focus on your career development, but you're not a strong coder, that's going to be a problem, right? In some careers, you might be able to get away with, you know, getting that job and then getting started with your career. But with software development, right, it's a demonstratable skill. So we have to do both. Program every day and prepare for your career. We do both of those, you know, you guys are going to be really successful. Okay, have a great weekend, and I'll have a new video where I'll probably go through some more LinkedIn stuff. That'll be on Monday. Okay, bye.